always wondered, like, you know how in jazz they say play root, third and seventh with the melody as like a starting point? So fine, I'll take the Days of Wine and Roses and I'll do root, third, seventh, root, third, seventh, root, third, seventh with the melody, root, third, seventh. But you don't get a lot of information, and I thought this was going to be a really useful video because you don't get a lot of information about like how to make the song sound sweet, how to make it sound good. Because the thing is, when I was at jazz school, and by the way, that was like almost 10 years ago. Now that I actually think about it, I enrolled at jazz school 2014. That was my first year. I graduated in 2017, but coming from a classical background, of course, the first thing that I had to learn to do was do root, third, seventh for all the chords. And that worked for a while. At some point you think to yourself, but how do you make it sound good? You know, how do you make it sound like what you hear on the records? At school, I didn't learn that. I learned it by transcribing, by listening to what professional pianists were doing. And sometimes when you listen to jazz records, you actually hear them say some of the same language, you know, the same frills and like in between harmonic movement. I always wondered to myself, how do I do that? And as a starting point, I want to share some of those traditional, like I will call them frills. So for example, like I could do, right? And that's that. But what if I say, how did I know how to make that sharp 5? Well, I got that by listening to Oscar Peterson, because he likes to employ these things where he does, where he's kind of enclosing to the 6 of the major key. You know, this is kind of like a frill that you add in order to enhance your playing. Also reminds me of the Barry Harris thing. You know, well, even something as little as this. How do I know how to do? These are counter melodies, aren't they? How do I know how to create these counter melodies? And we'll do something like, these are all things that are not written in the chart, right? Even that F major, it's not written in there to play F augmented, because it's like an F augmented. I'm gonna take you inside my mind and how I sort of conceptualize these things and how I add them and apply them. And I guess for you to steal some of these ideas and use them as a way to kind of enhance your playing as well. So hi everyone. In this video, I realized that I'm actually talking about Oscar Peterson lines. Pretty much all of these ideas that are in this video I got from Oscar Peterson. And I'm not sure if I made that clear in the actual video, so I thought I should just make a quick clip to sort of emphasize that these are actually lines that I learned from Oscar Peterson, that I feel like Oscar Peterson is a really beautiful mix of gospel, classical, and jazz. He's one of those players that are unique, you know. You can't really box him in a jazz sense, because you hear a lot of classical playing, you hear gospel playing, and I think these lines are really, really beautiful frills that are jazz-esque but also gospel-esque, and that really helped me, you know, sort of elevate my playing, as opposed to just playing, you know, the shell shape of a chord, but helped me to add other interesting ideas. And so these ideas are transcribed ideas that I pretty much learned from Oscar Peterson. And I just thought to put this clip in case that was not clear, and enjoy the rest of the video. There are two things that I think will take you from playing just root, third, seventh to sounding like a professional, essentially. And that's choosing perfect tensions, and within choosing perfect tensions, understanding that those tensions also function as voice leading. So if I do, This one's to lead to the 6. To me, jazz is always about creating tension and resolution. That's where the interest comes in. Now, the second thing that brings me to the second point is you have to understand the song from the top down. You shouldn't be a player who looks at each chord as it comes, but rather how does each chord function within the key. And if I'm taking Days of Wine and Roses, this is in the key of F major, right? So I want to know that when I'm at chord 1, this is chord 1. When I'm at the E flat 7, this is flat 7. When I'm at the A half diminished, this is chord 3. When I'm at the D7, I know that this is 5 of 2, which then of course takes me to the 2. And this would be minor 4, which would drive me back to the 3. To 2, right? If you were to analyze the song, do you know how all of these chords are functioning as it relates to the key? You're able to implement frills that are derived from the song itself. Another thing is this: you don't just want to sound good, right? I remember my piano lecturer when I was in my undergrad, he used to always say, you should give the song what it needs. By that he means it's not actually about knowing everything. It's about knowing enough to know what each song needs in the moment. All the skills that I've acquired, I'm not going to put it in every song just to kind of make it sound full. Something minor, you know, can make a song sound good. So let's continue here. Put my Oscar Peterson thing there. And when I have a minor 2 chord, it's typical you hear, you know, jazz players, sometimes they'll do a triad, then minor major, minor 7, minor 6. So that adds interest. Another really typical thing in jazz is, you know, when you're on a minor chord, to kind of have this delayed resolution. So that's very typical. That's essentially just, here's more of an up-close view. What I mean by delayed resolution is if I'm going from minor 5 to minor 1, before the chord tone hits the tonic of G minor, really what I want to do is I want to resolve it when I'm on G minor, right? So and what's happening here? How do I know how to do? This is kind of a harmonic movement, right? I'm doing. Typical in jazz to have a minor chord like that descends down to the half diminished. And what Oscar Peterson does, how he gets there, is by starting from the 9th of the minor chord. So he'll do 9, 3, 5 in the left hand, and then the left hand will simply just move down. Nicely to half diminished. And here, also a really typical jazz thing, I don't know. Well, I do know. This is a very typical kind of ending phrase. Same thing here. You know? Again, I'm doing same fingering and voicing, except I'm landing now on the 5, not on the half diminished, and I'm using the triad on the 13th. Now, going back to what I had said about tensions, it's important to pick out really perfect tensions, or as perfect as you can get them. That's the only way you're going to achieve that sound that you hear in the records, you know. Across most records, you will hear players, when they're using primary dominance, they'll have flat 9 and natural 13. Right? Very typical voicing, and that's kind of like using A major triad over C. And I had made a video about this, by the way. You can check it out, and I have a table for these voicings and everything. It's a free PDF that you can download on which tensions to use where, or at least which tensions I found work. On secondary dominance, the triad that works on the 2nd degree creates a sharp 11 across many jazz records. Secondary dominance really like sharp 11, natural 9, natural 13. So like, that's a secondary dominant, right? It likes that sound. Right, another typical thing, I guess this is a little bit more gospel, but I've certainly heard Oscar Peterson do this as well. Especially if you want to move to relative 6. That's really typical, but you can use it in any instance. So what I'll do here is I'll go. Now I'm moving up F, I'm playing F triad over the 3, because again, I'm aware of the overarching key, which is F major. So essentially, this is what's happening in the song. Right? So if I know that I can walk up and down, you know, the key, and I've got all of these chords available, why not do right? And so on. And so these are kind of the little things that I implement. Of course, there's so many other things that you could do. These are a few things that I find to be useful, at least for this song, and it will probably work for a lot of other tunes as well. And of course, as a beginner, these are the kinds of things that you would kind of need to build your playing. And so what I have done is I have taken 3 of these frills that I've discussed in this video, and I have put them through 12 keys in notation form, right, in like a digipack that you can download and get and practice. Hi, future me here. While I'm editing this video, I thought to make this quick clip on what you can expect in the resource. If you go back to my videos, you will see that I take a lot of pride in ensuring that my videos are clear, They really are videos that are meant to help you, and based on the feedback that I get from them, they seem to help a lot of people. I seem to have a unique way of conveying difficult topics as it pertains to jazz music in general. Because of that, I decided a while back to start creating resources. And as I'm sitting here right now working on this new resource that I'm going to be putting out with this video, it's going to be 3 fills, jazz gospel fills as said by Oscar Peterson, and I'm also going to be adding a video that's going to pretty much take you step by step on how to use these fills, exactly at which point in a tune. Furthermore, when I create resources, I want to make them as valuable, or I should even say invaluable, as possible. If you are a beginner, I'd also like to just take this moment to let you know that I do have a booklet. And if I were a jazz beginner, that is where I would start. It's called I Wish I Learned This at Jazz School. So if you want to pick that up, you can get that, and it's going to be a starter pack that you are going to need in order to, get you started with jazz. It's for the super beginner. All of the discussed resources, the free ones and the ones that are for sale, you can find in my description. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found some value in it. If you did, consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Okay, I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.